The man on that porch was never the center of this story. He was the outer edge of it, the part that was always meant to be found, while the part that mattered stayed invisible. Dr. Ann Burgess, the woman who built the science of criminal profiling. Speaking on the record, May 6, 2026. What if I told you that for 3 months, the entire world was looking at the wrong person? What if the masked figure on that doorbell camera, the only face this investigation has had since February 1st, was never the architect of what happened to Nancy Guthrie? What if he was placed there deliberately, by someone who never planned to be seen at all? What if the most respected criminal profiler in FBI history looked at that footage on May 6, 2026, and said out loud what nobody in 3 months of coverage had been willing to say, that the man the world has been searching for may already be dead, eliminated by the same person who sent him to that door in the first place? And what if the person who planned all of this, the one Dr. Gary Brucato called a wolf in sheep's clothing, the one Dr. Ann Burgess called the boss, is still out there right now, looking ordinary, moving freely, watching this investigation from the inside? Stay with me, because today we are walking through the sharpest turn this case has taken in 3 months, argument by argument, detail by detail, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why the FBI is no longer looking at the outer edge of this web. They are looking at the center. Before we go one step further, I need to say something directly. I have followed this case since the beginning, and I think what makes it so difficult to sit with, what makes it different from almost anything this channel has covered, is that there is still no answer. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Her family is still waiting, and the person responsible is still free. 3 months is a long time to carry that weight, and I know this community has been carrying it too, in the comments, in the messages, in every person who has shared every update hoping it would be the one that breaks this open. Today might be that update. What the profilers said on May 6th did not just add a new theory to this case, it dismantled the one that had been driving it from the beginning. And I think when you hear it fully, when you understand what it means for where this investigation is going, it is going to feel like something just shifted. Because it did. Before we go one single step further, Nancy Guthrie, a private woman, a mother, a grandmother, someone who built a quiet, peaceful life in Tucson, Arizona, a life that belonged entirely to her, that had nothing to do with headlines or cameras or public attention. Nancy, this community holds you. This community is not moving. We are going to stay in this case for every development, every hearing, every moment that brings the answer one step closer. You deserve that. Your family deserves that. If you carry Nancy with you today, type amen in the comments right now. Let me see this evidence true crime family stand for her one more time. Subscribe right now if you are not already part of this family. Turn on that notification bell, because the next development in this case could come at any moment, and you need to be in the room when it does. Like this video, if it changed how you see this investigation. Share it with one person following this case, because every share brings one more set of eyes into this community. And more eyes means more answers. Drop your final verdict and your final reaction in the comments. I will read every single one. God bless every single one of you. She has lived in that Tucson home since the 1970s. Decades of ordinary Saturdays. Decades of family dinners, neighborhood routines, the small and steady rhythms of a life well lived. On January 31st, 2026, she left a family dinner and went home. She never made it to church the next morning. Her phone was still inside the house. Her belongings were untouched. And somewhere in the hours between those two moments, someone entered her home with a plan that had been building for far longer than a single night. Nancy, this community sees you. This community holds you. You are not a case file. You are not a piece of evidence. You are a mother, and a grandmother, and a woman who deserved every quiet morning, and every ordinary day. And this channel will not stop saying your name, until there are answers. To Savannah, who has sat in front of a camera every morning carrying something no daughter should ever have to carry, this community stands with you. Your mother is loved. Your mother is remembered. and the people who follow this case are not going anywhere. If you feel that, if you want to stand for Nancy right now, type Amen in the comments. Let me see this evidence true crime family come together for her before we go one step further. And I need to say something to this community right now, directly. If you are new here, welcome. This is Evidence True Crime. What we do on this channel is simple. We follow every case all the way through, not the surface summary, not the 2-minute recap, the full picture, every development, every new piece of evidence, every expert assessment, with the victim at the center of every single word. This case is still active. The FBI is still working. And when the next development breaks, and based on everything we are about to cover today, that moment may be closer than anyone realizes. You need to be in this room when it happens. Subscribe right now if you are not already with us. Turn on that notification bell. This community does not miss a single chapter. And neither should you. Drop your location, city and country. I want to see where my Evidence True Crime family is watching from today. And give me your starting position before you hear one argument. Type the porch guy, the boss, or unsure right now. We are coming back to this at the end. I promise some of you are going to feel something very different by then. For 3 months, the working logic of this entire investigation was built on one visible fact. Find the man on the porch. Find the answer. It was a reasonable assumption. He was the only visible actor in a crime that left almost no other traces. His backpack, his gloves, his mask, his measured, deliberate movements across Nancy Guthrie's property at 2:28 in the morning. Everything about the visible evidence pointed inward toward him. He was the target of the investigation. The face on the wanted posters. The reason a $1.2 million reward existed. But the profilers who gathered to analyze this case on May 6th did not see a mastermind when they studied that footage. They saw something else entirely. They saw a person who was placed there by someone who never planned to be seen at all. And the more they looked, the more they understood that the man on that porch was never the center of this story. He was the outer edge of it, the part that was always meant to be found, while the part that mattered stayed invisible. Speech balloon. For 3 months the world looked at the wrong face. Does that land for you? Type yes or no, and tell me why. I want this community's honest reaction before we go into the profiler arguments. Dr. Burgess is not a television commentator. She is the researcher whose work on violent criminal behavior formed the foundation of how the FBI profiles offenders. She built this science. When she speaks about a case, it is not opinion. It is the result of a career built entirely on understanding how people like this behave. On May 6th, she was asked directly whether the masked intruder acted alone. Her answer was immediate. No. And then she took it further. She said the person the world has been searching for, the only visible suspect in this entire investigation, may have been eliminated. The interviewer pressed her. Do you mean the porch guy could be dead? She confirmed it. Do you mean killed by whoever sent him, the boss? She confirmed that too. Think about the full weight of that statement. The only face this investigation has had for 90 days. Not hiding. Not running. Possibly removed by the same person who put him at that door in the first place. Because when you send someone to do something this serious, and then the entire world starts searching for them, they stop being an asset. They become the only thing standing between the person who planned this and a federal indictment. And the person who planned this made a calculated decision, not out of panic, out of the same cold calculation that designed the original plan. The only visible suspect may already be dead, eliminated by the person who sent him. Rate this argument. 1 to 5. 1 means it does not move you. 5 means this reframes the entire investigation. Drop your number and your honest reaction right now. Dr. Gary Brucato described the structure of this crime as a spiderweb, and that image matters, because a spiderweb has a very specific architecture. The outer threads are the most visible. They catch things. They hold things temporarily. But they are not where the spider lives. The spider lives at the center. Patient, connected to every thread, never directly visible from the outside. The man at Nancy Guthrie's door was an outer thread, visible, exposed, and if Dr. Burgess is right, already gone. But the center of that web is still intact. still connected, still controlling the structure, from a position that nobody has photographed, nobody has named, and nobody has publicly identified. Brucato called that person a wolf in sheep's clothing. And that is not dramatic language. It is a precise behavioral description. A wolf in sheep's clothing does not look dangerous. That is the entire point. They look like someone you would trust. Someone whose name, if you heard it attached to this crime, would make you say, that cannot be right. I know that person. That person is normal, because that is what they built. That is the armor they wear every single day. And it is exactly that armor that has kept them invisible for 3 months, while the world looked at the outer edge of the web. Speech balloon. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Someone who looks completely ordinary. Rate this argument, 1 to 5. And tell me, does this change who you think investigators should be looking at right now? Drop your reaction. Dr. Casey Jordan answered the most uncomfortable question in this entire case. How did the boss get close enough to plan this? Because planning a crime like this requires knowledge. Not general knowledge. Specific knowledge. The layout of Nancy's home. Her daily routine. Her schedule. The fact that she lived alone. Entry points. Predictable patterns that could be studied, mapped, and used. That kind of knowledge does not come from a Google search. It comes from proximity. From time spent in or around that environment. From moments of access that felt completely unremarkable at the time. Jordan pointed to the specific category of person who would have that access without triggering any alarm. An Uber driver, a delivery driver, a maintenance worker, a service professional. Someone who passed through Nancy's world in a way nobody thought twice about. Because people like that pass through everyone's world. They are invisible by design, not because they are hiding, but because the role they occupy makes them background. Nancy Guthrie has lived in that Tucson home since the 1970s. Decades of faces that came and went. And somewhere in that decades-long list of ordinary interactions, one of them was not ordinary at all. One of them was watching with a specific kind of attention, building a specific kind of knowledge, waiting for a specific kind of moment. Jordan added one more detail. The boss may have first become aware of Nancy through Savannah, through television, through watching the Today Show and seeing not just a journalist, but a connection, a private entry point to something they had already decided they wanted. Someone who passed through her world looking completely ordinary, invisible by design. And tell me, does the Savannah connection change how you see the motive in this case? Drop it in the comments right now. Here is the argument that I think is getting the least attention, and it may be the most important one for what happens next. Jim Clemente raised a detail about the suspect's behavior after January 31st that is critical to understand. He said that because this person was not a professional, because they are someone hiding inside an ordinary life, they exhibited behavioral changes before and after this crime that the people around them would have noticed. Shifts in routine. Changes in how they carry themselves. Reactions that do not quite match the situation when this case comes up in conversation. A distance that was not there before. A tension that lives just underneath the surface of their normal life. And if Dr. Burgess is right, if the porch guy was eliminated, then the people closest to the boss experienced something else. Because removing someone is not a clean, invisible act. It leaves marks on the people who knew the person who disappeared. On the behavior of the person who made that decision. On the quiet, unmistakable shift that happens when someone crosses a line they cannot uncross. That weight does not disappear. It transfers. And it shows up in exactly the kind of behavioral changes that investigators are trained to recognize. Now here is why the case stalled, and why what happens next is different. In the early weeks of this investigation, the Pima County Sheriff's Department was not fully sharing evidence with the FBI. Leadership changes placed less experienced personnel in control during the most critical window. A forensics professor reviewing this case said publicly, "It will be taught in classrooms for years as an example of what not to do." That institutional failure bought the boss time. But that window is now closed. The DNA collected at Nancy's home, including a hair sample, has been transferred to the FBI laboratory. Federal resources. Advanced forensic technology. The full weight of an agency, with unlimited time. and the boss cannot reach into an FBI laboratory and take back what is already there. The case stalled because of an institutional failure. The window that bought the boss time is now closed. Does that change your confidence that this case will be solved? And tell me, does the behavioral trail argument feel like the most actionable piece of evidence to you right now? If anything you have heard in this video connects to something you have seen or heard, someone whose behavior shifted after January 31st, someone who reacted too strongly or not strongly enough when this case came up in conversation, someone whose ordinary life developed a quiet, unexplained tension, investigators need to hear from you right now. FBI tip line, tips.fbi.gov, Pima County Sheriff's Department reward, over $1.2 million, unclaimed. One tip, one detail, one person who connects one thing to another. That reward exists for exactly this moment. When one person realizes what they have been sitting on. When one detail connects to another. When the thread that leads to the center of this web is finally pulled by someone who was standing close enough to see it all along. Here is what I need you to understand, because this is the part most people miss when they look at these arguments one by one. The porch guy possibly eliminated. The spiderweb structure. The wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding in ordinary life. The behavioral trail. The institutional failure that is now corrected. None of those arguments alone solves this case. But together, especially now that the DNA is at the FBI and the behavioral profile is fully built, they point in a direction that is specific, traceable, and closing. Dr. Ann Burgess built the science that caught some of the most dangerous people in American history. When she looks at a case and says the answer is in a specific direction, that direction is not a guess. It is the result of a career built entirely on understanding how people like this behave. When the walls start closing in, and the walls are closing in, the boss cannot reach into a federal laboratory. They cannot undo the behavioral record they have been building for 3 months. They cannot take back the hair that was already collected. They cannot unwrite the digital trail that federal resources are now pulling apart thread by thread. Every day that passes without an arrest is not a victory for them. It is a day they have to maintain the performance. And performances are exhausting, especially when the audience keeps getting larger, the coverage keeps intensifying, and the case that was supposed to go quiet keeps finding new voices that close the distance between the outer ring of the web and the center. You typed the porch guy, the boss, or unsure at the beginning of this video. What would you type right now? Tell me which argument landed hardest. Was it Dr. Burgess saying the porch guy may already be dead? The spiderweb structure? The wolf in sheep's clothing hiding inside ordinary life? The DNA sitting in a federal laboratory that the boss cannot touch? Tell me what changed. Drop it all in the comments, because this community's conversation is the best part of everything we do here. And I read every single one. Nancy Guthrie has been missing for 3 months. She left a family dinner and did not come home. Her phone was still inside the house. Her belongings were untouched. And somewhere in the hours between those 2 moments, someone entered her home with a plan that had been building for far longer than one night. The investigators believe the answer exists. They believe it is documented. They believe it is waiting in a file or a message or a memory that has not yet been connected to the right question. And when that connection happens, the profilers believe it will. It will not feel like a sudden revelation. It will feel like something that was always there, waiting to be seen clearly.